So, just tuning in and feeling into perhaps the overall warmth of the body, wherever you feel that, the weight of the body, it can be a wonderful factor to just actually know the body's weight in connection to the earth, those points of contact, and simply allow the awareness, almost like a snow globe, as it rests and feels the body. It's nice to allow the awareness to kind of settle into an aspect of the physical body that feels relatively calm and stable in this moment naturally without you having to do anything. Let yourself discover where it's relatively stable to land and just rest the awareness. The awareness like a soft, warm, non interfering, non reactive knowing. There can be a lot of sensations, of course, in the body, and some are pleasant, some are unpleasant, and some are neutral, as we know. But allow the awareness to discover a particular region or area offering itself in this moment as a sturdy place to just land and rest. Perhaps the peace and ease of the hands, the gentle, reliable, and soothing waves of breath already here. Allow the awareness to illuminate where it feels best this morning for you in the body to become present. Let the body lead. Let the awareness really know fully the ease there, the grounded or reliable stable, perhaps even easeful sensations wherever you feel them, just for now. And just to support this process of settling a bit, especially if anyone here is relatively new to practice, I just want to acknowledge um, that as you rest a bit in a region of peace or ease in the body, just soaking and resting in the experience fully in this moment, there may be some contrast in the mind. This is really to be expected. It's okay. There's no goal to empty the mind. What's a wonderful opportunity is to allow the mind to do whatever it's going to do and untangle from that and set the mind free. Give it give it permission to go out and play or do what it's going to do. And let it move into the background. Don't interfere with that. Don't get entangled with any of that. Let it go. And feel into the agency of choice. To gently return and rest again in the reality, the truth, the truth. You know, we're going to be talking about wise speech, what is true in your direct experience. Let the body reveal what is true and real. Rest in that. And then, if you like, it's really always your choice for what's best for you. But if you like, in support of embodied, mindful, deep listening, deep receptivity, if you feel somewhat settled enough, I invite the awareness, this knowing awareness, always present in every moment, available, ready. Gently and really slowly. It's so lovely to slow way down. Just allow the awareness, if you like, to rest at the opening of the ears and just rest. And simply receive and feel and know the sounds as they are right now. There may be stillness, and sounds arise and pass away. Once again, with this deep listening, there is no interfering or judgment or letting go of any evaluation in the mind, and just dropping down and listening and feeling the music vibrational, listening with the whole body. Resting in the river of sound. Sit back and rest in the flow. Stay open. There are sounds within the room, wherever you are, of course. You might even hear your own breath. And it can expand out into the sounds outside whatever space you're in as well, letting that in without judgment or evaluation or preferencing, letting it all be felt and heard and known. just sounds, just for now. And I'll just say, as a practice, sounds naturally, um, there can be constructions in the mind. You can notice this a bit. Images, stories that naturally begin to construct in relationship to the sounds. You can notice this, but I invite you to let that um, dissolve, drop down into that deeper, deeper embodied experience. Feel the sound. And for the last few minutes of this practice, inviting also, if it feels meaningful to you, to allow the deep listening to be a listening to the self talk in the mind, in awareness. What do you hear? Without becoming too caught up in it, what is the tone? Is it warm and supportive or not? How does the self talk, if you begin to tune into that channel a bit, once again, deep listening, not interfering, how does it feel? What's the impact in your being? Is it wholesome or not? If you like, just as we move into the last minute of this practice, you can see what it's like to offer and just to asana, an experiment, to offer yourself a kind word with a warm tone that feels authentic to this moment. And notice how that lands in your being. One kind word, just one. As we come to the end of this practice, I would love to read this very powerful quote from the Buddha. And I think it does kind of set up wise speech along with the deep listening. And so just let the words land and see how they resonate for you. The thought manifests as the word manifests as the deed develops into habit, and habit hardens into character. So watch the thought and its ways with care, and let it spring from love, born out of concern for all beings. As the shadow follows the body as we think, so we become. So feel free to stretch a little, open your eyes. Yeah. And how often do we really cultivate this kind of deep listening? And how does it feel in the body, heart, mind when we do cultivate this capacity to any degree? Yeah, welcome. Come on in. So I'd love to share some words on wise speech, and then we'll open to questions and move into some experience with this together. And I do want to say that I always feel this. I just think that you should feel so proud of yourself for being here. It's a real accomplishment just to be here. It really is, isn't it? Against the stream, we say, you know, that you find yourself here, that something very deep within you brought you, that wants, of course, the best for you and others, but just knows that there's another way to be, even if you don't quite know how to articulate it. And I just really bow to all of you for being here. It's really important right now on the planet, I think, to be cultivating these practices at this time. So, very inspired by all of you. I think just being here is 80% of it, showing up. Huge, huge part of it. So in terms of wise speech, what we've been doing this first 8 months of the year here for this sit, and this sit is really a place for you to come every week, whenever you can, as a way to really kind of set this up for yourself, to really lay the foundation, to cultivate, to deepen your understanding, to feel into the benefits within your own being and in community. And we've been unpacking the Eightfold Path, and I just want to name these different factors. We're going to be tuning into wise speech, but just to be clear, for those of you who may not know what they are, these are these 8 factors that really constitute our path. And this comes from a Buddhist perspective, of course. And we want to keep them all in the front burner. They all support each other. We want to kind of keep them in our awareness, in our practice. And so I'll just name them. And it's nice, we do basket them. There are 8, but we basket them. They have particular flavors or themes. The first basket is the wisdom factors. And this is wise view, which is what we did in January, wise intention, did it last month, and wise effort. And then there's this morality or ethical basket, our ethics, how we show up in the world. And this is wise speech, right? Wise livelihood and wise action. And then there's this final basket of meditative qualities to deepen our meditation practice, wise concentration, and wise mindfulness. So that kind of gives you a little bit of the landscape of what we're cultivating. So I want to kind of dive right in from a more traditional point of view about what wise speech is, from dating back to the Buddha, and it's still relevant today, I would say. And maybe some of you know this, but I just want to reiterate it, and then I'll kind of move into maybe something that feels a little bit more relevant, and relatable for us all now. So the Buddha is very precise in his description of wise speech. And this is a quote from the Buddha. He defined it as abstinence from false speech, abstinence from malicious speech, abstinence from harsh speech, abstinence from idle chatter. So he phrases it in that way, but he also phrases it in the positive. He says, he reframes it as, urges us to say only what is true, to speak in ways that promote harmony among people. Ah, such a deep factor, I have to say. To use a tone of voice that is pleasing, kind, and gentle. And to speak mindfully in order that our speech is useful, timely, and purposeful. So this is really beautiful, I think. And so just generally, I guess what we could say when we listen to the Buddha, it's to be honest, to be truthful, that we refrain from gossiping, idle speech. And I'm going to go into these a little bit more into detail, but I'm sure you probably have a sense of them. And no harsh speech, and that it be constructive. And then this is a really beautiful factor, that it be well timed, that we really pause and consider when would be the best time to speak in all kinds of different situations. So just letting that land. And I want to say that, you know, one of the meditation factors, wise mindfulness, we kind of cultivated that in our practice just now. It really, really supports, wise, becoming mindful, becoming present is one of these very important factors. You feel how they all support each other this way. I don't think you can have wise speech without wise mindfulness, at least in my experience. Mindfulness, this quality that we cultivate, it allows us to recognize what we're about to say before we say it, right? It gives us pause. We can feel into perhaps what we might say. And it offers us this kind of freedom and choice and agency. And I think there's three main aspects: when to speak, what we're going to say, what are the words, and how we're going to say it. You might have the most, the right thing to say, the wise thing, but it's how you say it. Don't you all agree? That really can allow it to land. So these three elements are what we really kind of mindfully tune into. With mindfulness, we begin to realize that the heart is the heart, not up here. Do you guys know what I mean? Coming from the mental patterns and the reactivity. Can you feel the difference of what I'm saying? That the speech perhaps isn't top down, analytical, that it's the heart is the ground from which our wise speech really grows and flows from. And I think mindfulness for me, it really helps me, and this is a deep part of my practice, is that it helps me realize, am I coming from a reactive mode in that moment in what I'm going to say? Or have I really taken the time to become, to kind of move into a more responsive, mindful place where we can really know and tune into these different these qualities, as well as what, when, and how. Do you guys know the difference between being reactive and responsive? Does anyone have a sense of this in this room? Yeah. And there is an acronym that we use in MBSR. It's called STOP. Has anyone heard this acronym? It's a really simple one. I'll just say it really quickly and then I'm going to move on. But I have to tell you, I do this all day long. As part of my practice, I'm just not like a really intense way, but in a loving, kind, wholesome way, almost like a good friend. My mindfulness really is like this friend that walks with me like a shadow, like that quote, that just stays there to guard my own mind, my own body, my own heart. It guards and watches. It protects. me. And what I do all day is I really track my own reactivity. And reactivity is something that we feel in the body. Do you guys know what I mean? We get kind of, I don't know about you, but I get riled up. Does anyone know that feeling? I get riled up. And, I have to say, I know I seem, and I'm sitting here before you, and I look really calm, but my ancestry, I'm of Sicilian ancestry. So you can imagine that I do get riled up, that that's part of my DNA. And my practice has really helped me a lot with this factor so that I don't go off on people. Do you know what I mean? Don't go off. So I track my reactivity and I really stop. So the acronym very simply is to pause when you feel that you're in a reactive mode, that you don't act on it. That reactivity does have so much energy. It does kind of want to do it, right? Doesn't it have that charge to it? So just to pause in and of itself from a mindfulness perspective is a huge aspect. Just to go, okay, right? Just to pause. The next thing is to take a breath. It's to really just move into that first foundation of the body. Feel the breath. What the breath does, very simply, it's so nice. You can just rest in the breath, just let that move into the foreground, and it regulates and neutralizes all the stress reactivity in the body. It activates the vagus nerve, it brings on the parasympathetic. And before you know it, the system starts to calm down. Do you guys know what I mean? The breath really activates the relaxation response in the body, and the reactivity just kind of. It also allows you to move into full brain function. When we are reactive, we are operating from a limited brain, a more primitive brainstem. We can really feel it, right, everyone? And when we calm and just take a breath, we move into full brain function. And we can really feel as we drop back in and come back to our best selves, the prefrontal cortex. The Buddha was very practical in these practices. It's very physical. It's not metaphysical. It's really in the here and now. It's really in your felt experience. Take a breath and then you can observe, kind of hang out. You can look into the situation, whatever it may be. And from a more, you're toggling from a reactive mode into a more responsive mode. You're doing that, right? And as you calm down, you start to see the situation more clearly. There starts to be, from that telescoping, that kind of way of seeing, it starts to open up. You start to see the bigger picture. You start to be able to access more compassion, kindness, perspective, more choice, more space. You can look into that situation and go, is this the time to say something? Right? You can more accurately assess. Does this make sense, everyone? And then the last P is just, stop. It's an acronym. It's these letters. It's very simple. You just have to kind of pause, breathe. What's really going on? And then move into what is the most skillful response in this moment? What's the wisest way that I can respond? Now, I have really learned the hard way to do this because I have learned that when I come from a reactive mode, when I speak from a reactive mode, it never gets better. It never helps. It only makes it worse. Does everyone agree? And then I feel terrible. I feel bad. I have to repair. Do you know what I mean? It's all that stuff. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. So that STOP acronym is a really nice way to do that. Joseph Goldstein has an amazing quote in terms of wise speech. You all know Joseph Goldstein, very famous teacher in this lineage, Theravadan lineage of Buddhist practice. I remember he came to LA and he was speaking, and somebody asked the question of him, and they said, "What can you say is the wisest thing that you can say to us in relationship to other people?" And he said very quickly, without pausing, he said, "You need to take 100% responsibility for your own reactivity. Everybody went, oh. Because imagine if everyone did that. What would that be like? Can you feel the difference of that? But you can start in your own practice to do that and move into that wholesome stop and pausing and just, I with my family, I give myself time outs all the time. I say, time out, I'll be right back. I got to calm my system down because I really care about you and I care about what we're talking about. And I'm going to circle back when I am in a better place, when I can bring you my best self. And people go, oh, okay. So this is really kind of what we're moving into with wise speech. I do want to also talk about the factor of wise speech. It does tie into wise intention quite deeply. The words that do flow out of our mouth directly are linked to our intentionality, to the state of our mind heart in that moment. Is it more responsive? Is it coming from a more wholesome place, a more regulated place? And we notice with wise speech instantly the fruit of our karma. Karma very simply is very simply is cause and effect. This happens, so this happens. And we feel it right in the moment, don't we? With unwise speech, we go, ooh, as recipients of it, and also as ones that are in the position of offering it. So we really want to notice this in our direct experience. We want to learn from it. We want to stay present with the experience. Words are very powerful. I'm sure all of us maybe have had like a broken bone or something like that, or a physical wound, but it heals, doesn't it? It kind of heals. But how many here have been wounded by unwise words? Anybody here been wounded by that? Almost everybody, right? Do those things heal? Are they still festering? Words really can be powerful in their karmic effects. How many of you have experienced very kind words from someone? Oh, wasn't it just the karmic effect? You feel it right away. It really lands. And if you've been in a position to be the one to have practiced wise speech and you see how it lands in somebody, and oh, doesn't it feel good? So we're really noticing the karmic aspect of our speech. And then I did invite you to inquire how many of you in that meditation, just at the very end, I invited you to explore your own self-talk. Did anyone kind of tune into that a little bit? Ooh, I have to say, in my own practice, I realized the way I talk to myself, if I talk to my friends that way, I'd have no friends. Do you guys know what I mean? It's my own worst enemy. And I will say, I'm happy to tell you, in my own practice, that self-talk has also been transformed through wise speech so that it includes how I speak to myself internally. If we're really harming ourselves and hurting ourselves and endlessly bringing ourselves down and criticizing ourselves all day long, evaluating ourselves, chipping away, how can we show up for others, really? How can we find that warm, kind, supportive voice for real if we don't know what it's like within our own mind, heart, body? So I invite you to bring that in also to the practice. So I'll go over these things and then just to break them down. So first and foremost, honesty, telling the truth. And I don't want to get into our current events right now. We're not going to go into it at all, but wow, right? There's just not a lot of honesty in our social discourse right now. Would you all agree with me that that is true. And how does it affect us? Isn't it just really painful? And the Buddha said this. This is something that I think is really powerful. I look at it again and again, and I kind of let it land. The Buddha said this: for the person who transgresses in one thing, I tell you, there is no evil deed that is not to be done. Which one thing? This, telling a deliberate lie. The Buddha really says that this is the most evil of all things. So it's really important that we can find refuge in our own practice to find what is true, to speak what is true, and to really rest in that as a healing refuge right now. I also want to bring to mind that when we talk about wise speech in this modern time that we're in, not only does it include the way we speak to each other in person, but more often now we're just speaking to each other through our phones and through our devices, aren't we? What about the social media? What about emails? What about texting? Wow, doesn't this open up a lot of practice? In terms of those factors that the Buddha was really, do you ever notice before you send that text, you pause? Does anyone do that? And you go, I don't think I should send that. Doesn't it feel good to not send it? And then when you go back and you looked at what you were going to send and you didn't, you go, oh, I'm glad I didn't put that out into the world. And how many times did you send? And you go, oh, it felt good, in that reactive way. When we do things in a reactive mode, we get a certain satisfaction, a visceral satisfaction, a release. But boy, we regret it later, don't we? It doesn't feel good. It's not wholesome. And believe me, everything what we're doing in social media and texting and such, we're putting it out into the world, aren't we? That's a lasting imprint. I wanted to read this. Does anyone know the 5 reflections? I'm currently teaching a year-long course called A Year to Live, where we really practice like it's our last year of life so that we wake up and really let these factors land. And we are reflecting on these, what's called the 5 reflections. And what's so important about honesty in our speech, I'll read them to you. These are the 5 facts that one should reflect on often. Which 5? I'm subject to aging, have not gone beyond aging. This brings in wise view as well. All these factors are bringing in. I am subject to illness. I have not gone beyond illness. Just these truths, right? I'm subject to death. I've not gone beyond death. We're all going to die. It's just the truth. I will eventually grow separate and lose all that is dear and beloved to me, both people and things. It's nothing we can hang on to, right? That non-grasping. But then here, listen to this. The last one is this. My actions and my speech are my only true belongings. I cannot escape their consequences. They linger. My actions and my speech are the only ground on which I stand. It really points to how profound what comes out of our mouth. This is our belongings. This is our karma. It stays with us. It's deep, deep reflection. Beautiful, beautiful. No gossip. This is just an area of, not talking behind other people's backs. I find with my friendship group, I don't know about you, but with my friendship group, we're all friends. I don't talk behind other people's back. If a friend starts talking about another friend behind their back, I start to not feel safe with that friend. Do you know what I mean? There's a way of talking about other people in a way where you care about them and you're discussing them. as a way to be a good friend to them if they're not there. But you know what I mean, right? Maybe it's a strategy to kind of feel closer to that one person, to create a wedge. We want to really watch this so that I like to feel that I like to cultivate wise speech in my friendship group so that I represent safety for all my friends. I'm safe. Yeah. It feels good to be safe that way in friendship. Harsh speech, the tone is really important. I guess I don't need to say too much about this. I already talked about regulating and taking responsibility for our own reactivity. And that it be constructive. Does it bring benefit? This is such a beautiful reflection. Will it bring benefit? Is it constructive to all who are involved? And finally, timing. I really do practice this. Sometimes I want to say what I want to say, it feels really important. It's important to me. It needs to be said. Something needs to be fixed. But maybe that person that I'd like to share, they're not in a place to hear it yet. Do you know what I mean? They're just not quite in a place. And it's really beautiful to wait and to know that and to feel that in the present moment with the other person, waiting for them to be in a more balanced place. So with that, I'd like to move us into some sharing together about this with a prompt so that you can practice deep listening, that the other person can speak and feel listened to and come from this kind of more regulated, responsive place. But before I do, I've kind of spoken a lot. Does anyone have any questions? And I'll open for questions at the end too, for us as a group. Does anyone have any kind of thoughts or questions about anything I've shared? Does it make sense? Yeah, kind of does, huh? Yeah. Yeah. Do we need to give her the mic?
Hi, Lisa. Beautiful teachings.
Happy to do it. Yeah.
I was just wondering, the little passage that you read that started with, I am of the nature of being
The
sick and
5
dying.
reflections. Yeah.
Is that accessible? Is that what it's called, the 5 reflections? Can one Google that and find it?
You can take a picture of it with your
Oh,
phones.
lovely.
It's all here for you.
Great.
You can Google it.
Okay.
And it's for many Buddhists, it is a daily practice. And you can hear in it that it brings in wise view, wise intention. It lines us up with the truth. And then, wow, okay,
Yeah.
how am I going to operate?
Yeah, it's powerful at so
Yeah, I
many levels.
agree. I know, and I love
Thanks
that.
for sharing.
My actions, my words are my only true belongings. It's so un-American. It's like, what? That's not where I'm putting my energy. Do you know what I mean? It kind of stops me in my tracks. I just go, what am I doing? Really, what's your karmic nest egg? Yeah.
Thank you for everything.
Yeah, you can put it up so people can
Thank
hear
you for everything so
Yeah.
far. I have a question that might not be answerable. I'm a big proponent of truth and
Yeah.
honesty.
Yeah.
And so I love
Sure.
that the Buddhist says that that's the highest evil is
Is to
dishonesty.
lie. Yeah.
I guess my question is that I have found, and certain people are not capable
Yeah. Every time I do wise speech, somebody asks this question. Yeah, go ahead. It's true. I hear what you're saying. They're not capable. Everyone's laughing in this space. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not really
They're not capable.
of honesty, or
Mhm.
they either they're
Yeah.
afraid of it or too vulnerable and it's
Yeah.
scary to them,
Yeah.
and they want to be hiding, or
Yeah.
they're not in touch with it or something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so immediately I go to, because to me it's very important to be
Yeah.
authentic, but some people can't do it. And so I just wonder what you think
Mm.
about that, or what you think the Buddha might think about that. And
Can't speak for the Buddha, that's
yeah,
for
you
sure.
can't speak for the Buddha. Oh, I was hoping you could.
Yeah. How do you work with these people? How do you find yourself? How do you respond? What do you find yourself doing that's helpful to you and maybe to them? Hmm.
It depends
Yeah,
on the person and the relationship.
it does depend, doesn't it?
I tried to ask and get more understanding to
Sure.
see if there is an awareness or an understanding
Yeah.
of, I don't call them directly on it, you're a liar,
Yeah, right. But
but I try to understand what they're saying.
yeah,
It doesn't work that well.
yeah. Right, I hear you. Yeah. No, it's everyone relate to what she's saying. So it depends on the situation. We see it happening a lot. It is a factor. It arises in me a lot of compassion, because think of the karmic element of that. And there tends to be, when the compassion factor is present, I can see it with eyes of compassion, and it softens my experience in presence with anybody. And I see that it's coming from a lot of suffering that they don't know how to be with at all. And it's a way to cope with suffering, or, yeah, pain. And then it helps me shift a little. Now it depends then who these people are. If it's someone really close in your life, it's really wonderful. It's a wonderful practice to explore these elements and to see how you can gently, with deep listening, first deep listening, to really be present with them, and then just out of care and gentleness, to begin to say, very simple things. I feel like I don't really know you, and I'd like to know you. And just, these kinds of things where you can kind of begin to open the door. They may, or you don't have control over, they may
Right.
not be capable. And then you can hold it with compassion. And then there are some people, if they really are doing this, you really don't want to spend a lot of time. You want to steer away. And that's part of practice. How we choose our friendships is a big part of our practice. And we might just really not really spend a lot of time with them and wish them compassion. May you be free. May you come out of that prison that you've constructed for yourself. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so one more question, and then we're going to go into some little bit of yummy practice.
It's more of a comment from
Yeah.
what arose from here. But when you said the acronym STOP,
Yes.
did you actually go through STOP? You did? Maybe I wasn't.
Yeah, just to be really clear, and I don't know the board, but S is to stop, is to pause. And that alone is like, at least for me, I'm like, wow, that's a big deal. Just for me to do that. But I've learned, I do now. It's now become my default mode. T is take a breath. Let the breath move into, like you are breathing right now. It doesn't have to be this kind of breath. Just feeling breath as it is. Let it move into the foreground. It will neutralize the reactivity in the body brain. O, observe what's really going on. What is happening in this situation? Should I wait? And P, how can I best proceed? How can I best respond in this moment? Should I wait? Right? You know, what
Well,
have you?
The comment I was going to make is I've been listening to this TED Talk with
Yeah.
a monk on gratitude,
Yeah.
and he talks about stop,
Uh-huh.
look, go.
Oh, that's nice too.
So that's my new thing now.
Well, that's also another way of bringing mindfulness into the system so that you can then respond from a more wholesome place. These are all great practices.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So just because of our time, thank you for these questions. They're really deep. And isn't it nice to kind of deepen our learning together? I don't want to say that wise speech is easy. That's why we practice. So what I'd like to do is invite you to move into dyads, groups of two. We'll see if we're even in the room and online. And what you'll do is you'll take turns. One person will start, and what you'll do is you're just going to reflect and share on an experience of perhaps wise speech that you've had maybe recently. Maybe you were wise in your speech, and what was that like? Or maybe you were the recipient of it. And just share about that. If you want to as well, it's your choice. You can also choose to share about an experience of unwise speech. It's your choice. Whether you were the recipient of that, how that felt for you, or if you were the one who was unwise in your speech. We've all done it. It's just nothing. There's such common humanity in that. And just to talk about the experience, what you noticed about it, what you learned from it, what we want to deepen our understanding of wholesome and unwholesome experiences. That is what we're bringing into consciousness through our practice. We're waking up to suffering and the causes of our suffering so that we will not suffer as much anymore. That's what this is about. So one person, and then the other person who's listening, what I'd love for you to do is, like we did, just drop deep into the body and bring your complete listening presence. You do not say anything. It's so nice to just non-fixing. You're just listening. You're just really, and just notice how it feels, what they're saying. You just be with them in regulated, receptive presence. And then you switch. Does that sound good, everyone? So let's put the people. So we just have a few minutes left, and I always like to come back and allow us as a group to once again, if there's any sharing or questions, also from the online group. What did you notice about that experience with the other person? Anything about what you might have shared, that was relevant to this practice and motivating and, onward leading?